Good morning, everyone. Hope you are all well. Thank you for joining us. This morning's learning is dedicated in memory of Shalom David ben Mordechai Born, Sheido Bas Moshe Aaron Feiler, Mordechai ben Shmuel HaKohen Taylor, as well as Leah Bas Bible, Tzivi Bas Mordechai, Avram ben David Slavin, Shalom ben Yisrael Morris, Eliezer Shalom ben Abram Shmuel Beres, Tzipora Fegel Bas Reuven Baruch, Shalom ben Eli Ali ben Bas Bible, Frumash Shana Bas Yaakov Shmuel, Yirmiyahu Yechiel ben Moshe Eliezer, and Sarah Malka Bas Binyamin. We wish each and every one of their respective families long life. So today, friends, we are starting a new chapter. So if you're just joining us for the first time, welcome. And we are good morning to, in no particular order, to Rachel, to Eitan, to Peter, to Caroline, to Michelle, to Michael, to Estelle, and to David. Good morning, everyone. I presume that's what MNG stands for. Okay, so we're starting today the gate of love. Okay, and we are going to ask the same question that we ask every time as we drill into you this important concept and tool. So, is the character trait, right? Is the idea of love, right? We've asked it about shame, we've asked it about pride, about arrogance. So now we're discussing about love. Is love something which is a good character trait, or is it a bad character trait? In other words, can you think of a scenario, right? Can you think of a scenario where love would not be good, where it would be inappropriate, where love can have a damaging effect? Write in the message, you can just write the word yes. Let me see. I want to have some engagement, interaction with everyone here this morning. Come on, David, give us an answer. Is love always good? Or is love also one of those characteristics that is treacherous and dangerous? What do you think? Still waiting for the comments to come in. Estelle, what do you think? Michael, what do you think? What do you think of love? Okay, we know that anger is primarily bad, but on occasion it needs to be used in moderation. What about love? Isn't love always a good thing? What do you think? Have your say. Okay, we're going to push on, okay, whilst you consider it. So love includes more acts than any of the other traits. And when you employ love for good, there's the key, it is the highest of all traits. As it says in Devarim, and we're all familiar with it, you shall love Hashem, your God, okay? There is no form of divine service higher than serving God out of love, okay? The highest form of serving God is not out of fear, is not because I'm going to benefit from this. It's when I serve God purely because I have this deep-seated love for God, right? It's not what I'm going to get out of it. It's not about anything else. I take myself, take the ego out completely. It's about him, okay? Maybe if you love someone else's spouse, yes. But I'm talking about even in the normal run-of-the-mill activities, okay? Is love, could there be excessive love? Could you ever love someone too much? Would that be dangerous? There's a thought, for this time in the morning as you chew on your, munch on your crunchy nut cornflakes or whatever else you're having. Now, here we go. And now, how love tarnishes one's deeds when it gets the upper hand over wisdom. So, in other words, the love has a capability, as with every character trait, of if it is used in excess, then it also can color one's judgment. Okay, I think we are all aware of instances where love can color a person's judgment, right? They say love conquers all, right? Love is something that if it is misused, it also is problematic and dangerous. Let me give you examples. This chapter is absolutely majestic. He goes through the areas where love presents us with challenges, with danger, and then he says about how in those very same areas you can turn it on its head and you manage to use it in the right way. So let's have a look and then you'll see what I mean. What about the love of a parent towards their child? So the great love for a child may cause the parent not to reprove them, not to lead them on the right path. It may cause him or her to leave them to evil promptings of their hearts, from which great ruin will result. Okay? Now, I think we should make a distinction, okay, between there are some parents nowadays which is simply they leave their kids to their own devices, okay? Now, it may be coming from a love, but I don't think that's what he's referring to. He's not talking about where, I'm getting on with my life, you get on with your life, and I'm not going to get involved, right? Or I don't want to, or I don't have time, okay? Here we're dealing with a dedicated parent, and they have a great love for their child. And their love is so great, it's not out of laziness, right? It's not out of indifference or selfishness that they don't want to reprove their child. Their love is great that they just can't bring themselves to tell their child off, right? They just can't bring themselves to criticize their child. Now, the danger there is in neon red lights. We can all see it, that if we don't set children, if we don't educate children from a young age as to right and as to wrong, and as they get older, we also educate them right from wrong, right? And we don't, as it were, nudge them down the right path, right? Then there is a real danger that left to their own devices, that they will ruin themselves. What about the love of money? No one said that one, did they? Rachel did hint to it. She mentioned about obsessive. So the love of money, I would say that's probably the number one love in the world at the moment, far more than the love of another person, a spouse, love of a parent towards a child. I think if you took the world as a whole, the number one thing that's most important to people, more than relationships, the focal point of our world and our society is all around money. Okay? So one's great desire for money can cause the person to be dishonest in business and to lust, exploit, and steal in order to amass wealth. This great desire for wealth will cause him or her to close their hand to charity and to be miserly. So there's the danger, a twofold danger, okay? So firstly, its love is going to drag us, right, by the, drag us by the nose, drag us down the street, right, kicking and screaming, but nonetheless, our souls are screaming out for us to do something meaningful with our lives, and yet we pursue this lust and love for money, okay, which is an unsatiable desire that we have. We are never going to able to fulfill it. The Talmud tells us if a person has 100, he wants 200. A person has 200, he wants 400. That's the nature. That is what part is of the human psyche. Okay, so it's never ever going to be enough. Let's move on. So that's another area where love would be inappropriate if it was used in excess. Another area is the love of another person. Now, we did mention that. I think it was Estelle. So, for example, if, for example, you have a love for a spouse, and your love for your spouse is so great that you paper over the cracks. You don't want to tell them ever that anything's wrong. You don't want to tell them that that something needs to change, that we're not doing things the way we should, right? Again, that would be something that would be wrong. Okay, so there also is the danger of love for, he says, for close relatives. Okay, your love can be so great for them that when you see quarrels, right, you choose not to get involved, or you see them doing something wrong, you choose not to get involved, right? You're always going to defend them. You're always going to cover up, he says, even if they've been guilty of great offenses, you're going to take their side. It's an interesting one, isn't it? What a dilemma. What a dilemma. When somebody you love does something seriously wrong, right? Are you willing to stand up and to tell them, to hold a mirror up and to show them their faults, to show them their wayward behavior? Or is it that, no, we're always going to defend them till the hilt, right? Clearly, according to the Orchot Tzadikim, this would be something that's wrong. There comes a time and a place where it is appropriate and it is obligatory for a person to stand up and to hold up that mirror and to say to someone, even if we love them, a family member, whoever it is, that's not right. point out the danger, point out the fault. If you really love them, that's what you've got to do. Of course, it's got to be done in the right way. Okay, the love of a long life. So if a person wants to ensure, right, they're doing everything to have a long life, okay, that is the number one, the highest context marker. So therefore, you're not going to not going to push yourselves, right? You're not going to really stretch yourself. You just want to make sure that, you know, you maintain your physical well-being to such a degree that you don't want to ever face any type of challenges in life. You don't want to push yourself, so right? You're always taking the safe option. So that, of course, stops and inhibits one's emotional and spiritual growth. The love of honor, we've mentioned this before, so I'm not going to go into it. The love of pleasure and indulgence, right? In eating, in drinking, in other pleasures, right? In the wrong type of relationships. So satiating self-gratification, that's what we're always talking about, okay? Now, let me tell you, then he goes on to discuss about the individual loves and how one should deal with it. But let me just tell you a little story, because we mentioned before about the love of God, right? And there is a story about loving God. How do we come to love God? So there was a story about two. We know, firstly, I should point out that it says in the Torah that you should love another person like you love yourself, because I am God, right? It's one of the only places it says, you know why you've got to fulfill that command? Because I'm God. And often it's wondered why does it mention there, I am God? And the answer is, there was a Rav Noach Weinberg, of blessed memory, used to tell the story about two friends, and one of them he'd been accused and found guilty, in fact, of a terrible crime. He was considered a traitor, and therefore he was going to be executed. And as he was about to be executed, he said, listen, everyone's allowed a last request. Can you ask the king? I would like a last request. The king never heard of this before, but what could he do? Last request is a last request. So, okay, what's your request? He says, I want to go and say goodbye to my family. Everyone gets a last request from where I come from. I want to go and say goodbye. He says, well, where's your family? He says, well, it's Mesopotamia. It's a 3-day trip. So the king starts laughing, and everyone's laughing. He says, what do you mean? You expect me to allow you to sail away? You'll never come back? He says, no, don't worry. I keep my word, even though you consider me a traitor. And therefore, what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a guarantor. Okay? The guarantor is, I have a friend who will stand in my place. In other words, if I don't come back in, let's say, 2 weeks, which is enough time for me to go, to say goodbye, and to come back, my friend will take my place and you can execute him. The king is just absolutely amazed. He's never heard anything like it. So he says, you got a friend? Okay, to bring the friend. Yeah, I want to see this. So sure enough, the friend comes and they tell them what the deal is. It doesn't sound like a great deal. Anyway, so his friend says, yeah, lock him away. So they lock away the friend, and off sails the this convicted felon who's going to say goodbye to his family. He goes home, sails home, says goodbye to the family, spends some time with them, and then he's about to sail back. And as he's about to sail back, unfortunately, there wasn't sufficient wind, so he was delayed. So now you can imagine the scene. He gets to the 11th hour. He hasn't arrived back. The king says, see, I told you. I knew he wasn't going to pitch up. All of a sudden, he says, right, take him out. So they take out the friend, put a noose around his neck, and they're about to execute him. And as they're about to execute him, all of a sudden there's a commotion, and in runs the convicted felon who should have been executed originally. And he says, stop, I'm here, I've made it, I know I'm late, but I'm here. And the friend who's got the noose around the neck says, no, we had a deal. I agreed that if you did not come back on time, I would take your place. Therefore, I have to be executed. And the other guy says, that's ridiculous. I'm here. They haven't carried out the execution. It's me that has the conviction. I want to be executed. And they're going backwards and forwards, arguing about why each one should be the one who's worthy of being executed. And the king says, stop, stop, stop. You give me a headache. I had enough. I've decided, I've never seen anything like this in my life. I am prepared to grant both of you a pardon on one condition. You guessed it. The condition is that you make me your third friend. And that, friends, is the answer to the question that we asked. Love your neighbor like yourself, because I am God. God says that the way that we engender and build a relationship between us and our fellow human being, between us and our spouses, us and our children, right? A healthy, well-balanced relationship is the way that we should be able to build a relationship with God. So therefore, that is the first part we have now tackled of this beautiful chapter about the gate of love. I can assure you, when word gets out that we're discussing about love, all of a sudden we have 3,000 people watching, because it's always a popular topic. Lovely to see you. Thank you, Adam, for joining us. You also came in, I think, a bit late. Are you going to be the friend who's going to say, no, 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 don't, stop, stop, stop. I'll take his place. Anyways, let's go on. So we say the Psalm 23. Very quiet today, not many comments. Okay. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He causes me to lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside still waters. He restores my soul. He leads me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Even when I walk in the valley of darkness, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You set a table before me in the presence of my adversaries. You anointed my head with oil, my cup overflows. May only goodness and kindness pursue me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord for the length of days. Memorial prayer. Adon Alamim Zocho Es Nishmois Lebas Bible to Bas Mordechai from Ben David Slavin Shlomo Ben Yisrael Morris Eliezer Shalom Ben Abram Shmuel Beis Perafegel Bas Ruben Baruch Shalom Ben Eli Ben Bas Bible from Moshe Shan Bas Yaakov Shmuel Yom Yechiel Ben Chav Moshe Eliezer Sramach Bas Ben Yomin and Shalom David Ben Mordechai Bon Shena Bas Moshe Aaron Faila Mordechai Ben Shmuel Cohen Taylor Shalchuli Lamav Vegan Eden Temenu Chosam Lachim Belarachamim Yatrein b'seisa kana pavilana me'em v'yisrael v'schayt nishmasam adina naklasam v'yanuchu b'shlom shkavam v'nomar amen. Lastly, before we make a full shalema prayer, just a reminder, a warning, and I'm sure that those that are the lawyers here will be aware of it. But I got a phone call from somebody who was in a terrible state yesterday, not from our community, but their bank, right? We won't say the name of the bank, had purportedly called them and said that they needed to make these changes for security, and basically there are fraudsters out there, and what they are doing is they call you up and they get you to move for security money from one account to the other. Now we all know that there is meant to be a security callback from the bank. Okay, there's meant to be a security phone back from the bank. So what they do is they hang up after you've initially done something, then they call back and they say, we are the security of the bank, and we know that you just had a call from somebody who is purporting to be us, the bank. And then they say, you've got to change and move this, this, and this to protect your money. And it was almost a disaster yesterday of a serious amount of money, and thank God we managed to stop it. So what I'm saying is, please don't be naive. Okay, I'm sure Adam, if he's still on, will be able to tell us many a case. I know some of the big law firms are involved at the moment. So please be careful, be cautious. If they say anything to you, the answer is, right, they're preying on the vulnerable. Do not listen. You say, oh, you're the bank? Okay, I'll call you back. Don't do anything. Say, I'll call you back. You want me to do X, Y, and Z, and never give your details. In the heat of the moment, they catch people out. Do not give any details on the phone, and please stay safe. Okay? Misha Berg of Saint Robin Yaakov Moshe and David Shlomo. Vivar Krapes a Chaylim. Baba Shalom Miskalim Baba Robbins Gazal Baruch Hu Yimale Rachim Aleichem Lachman for some Yishlachlim for Shleman Shulchan Lechalvim Besosh Shach Yisrael. The first nefesh was a good Hashem Agzman Karib Amar Amen. I think they call it tough love. That's what we've been discussing. That there is a place. King Solomon said there's a place for everything. Everything has a time and a place, and therefore even love, right? There is a time where we have to show tough love, right? And it can't be totally, all indulging and all giving. Sometimes we have to say no, which is the true measure of love. So we'll continue tomorrow. We're seeing the flip side of all those things that we saw. Not tomorrow. We'll see on Sunday 9:30. Tonight 7:30, special program for Rabbi Sachs and for his Refuah Shalema. That's on US TV. And straight after that, we have at, I think it's 8:15 or 8 o'clock, I can't remember, on Facebook and YouTube, we have a burst of inspiration for the Parsha. Have a great weekend. Take care. All the best.